Hey everyone, it's Mr. Escamilla, and today I'm going to be guiding you through GMetrix Adobe Animate Practice Exam 2. We'll go ahead and click on the Start button. Make sure you change the mode to training so you have an unlimited amount of time, as well as a Help button. For this first question, we're going to be picking the appropriate term for the paragraph setting. And the first one here is an increased left margin because, as you notice in this first picture, some of the text is indented. So that is an increased left margin. This is over here on the left. The second set of text is going to be justified text because notice that both the left and right sides have a flush straight edge to them. The end of this G lines up with the edge of that M, and the spacing is modified between all of these letters in order to achieve that. That is justified text. The third one here is center alignment. The fourth one, notice there's more blank spaces in between all these texts. That is going to be increased line spacing. Task 2 says with the image below, identify the broken tween layer. That's going to be layer 3. Notice these little dots here indicate that that tween is broken. Here we're supposed to select the monster and the puppet to create a group using keyboard shortcuts. On a Mac, you're going to be clicking Command A to select everything in the document. Notice these two are separated layers indicated by this blue box that surrounds both of them. We are going to group them using the keyboard shortcut Command G. And now notice once we've done that, this is one whole grouped object. We'll move on to task 4. Well, we need to proofread the following text and correct the spelling. Notice animation is misspelled. It says amination. So we're going to grab our text tool and highlight this part and put A-N-I-M. A-T-I-O-N. And then you can click off, and that should be the correct spelling. Task 5, we need to add a shape tween to change the circle into a square. And this is pretty much already set up and done for us. We just need to add the shape tween. Notice this is a circle, and then we have a square here. So all we have to do is, with the selection tool, we just need to right-click the layer and click Create Shape Tween. And now it will slowly morph from a circle into a square, and we can go ahead and move on to task 6. For this one, we need to add whale 1 to the stage from the library, convert it to a symbol with the name whale 1, and then use a motion tween to move the whale from right to left between frames 1 and 50. So step 1, we need to go to the library panel, and using the selection tool, we need to click and drag the whale 1 image from the library onto the right-hand side of the stage on the whale layer, which is frame 1, and we actually are already there. If you look at the timeline, we have the whale layer selected, and we are on the first frame. So I'm going to drag that to the right side. Now we have to convert it to a symbol. So we're going to go to the top menu here, go to Modify, click Convert to Symbol. In the dialog box, we need to name this symbol whale 1. And select graphic in the type dropdown. And then click OK. Now we need to select frame 50 in the whale layer, and you need to select Insert, Timeline, Frame. And this will put frames for that layer between the second frame and frame 50. And now what we have to do is right-click on the whale layer timeline and select Create Motion Tween. Now we go to frame 50 and move the whale to the left side of the stage using the selection tool. And now you'll notice the whale moves from the right to the left side. That should be correct for task 6. Moving on to task 7, we're going to use the erase tool to erase part of the laces from the image of the boot. What we're going to do here is select the image by clicking on it with the selection tool. We're going to select Modify and click Break Apart. Now we're going to select the eraser tool, which is right here. You can use the shortcut E if you prefer. And then we're going to erase parts of both laces from the boot. And it says erase part of the laces, so I wonder how much we actually need to erase here. Probably would be easier if I made my eraser brush bigger. My eraser size, I should say. And this technically should be correct because I have erased part of the laces. It doesn't say how much we need to erase. I'm going to go ahead and see if that counts it correct. And it takes it. Moving on to task 8, we need to duplicate the orange star from layer 1 to layer 2, pasting it in the default location for pasted items on the stage. So to do this, we're going to select the orange star in layer 1. And we're going to press Command C to copy it. And it'll be Control C if you're on a Windows computer. Then we're going to click on frame 1 of layer 2. So notice right now my selection is on layer 1. I'm going to click here on layer 2, frame 1. And I'm going to press Command V to paste the orange star in the center, which is the default place where things are pasted. That should be correct for task 8. Moving on to task 9, we're going to copy frame 1 to frame 40 using a keyboard shortcut. So to do this, you're going to use the selection tool to select frame 1. With the ball selected, we're going to press Command C, Command Option C, actually, it looks like, to copy it. Now we're going to navigate to frame 40. And we're going to right-click here in the timeline and select Insert Frame. Now we will press Command Option V to copy the ball to the same position as in frame 1. And so now you have this end result. Whoops. Where the ball moves back to its frame 1 position. Moving on to task 10, we need to create a new HD document with the pixel dimensions 1000 by 1000. So we'll click File, New. In the document in the new document dialog box that opens, in character animation, we need to select the preset HD. So there's character animation right here. It may be set to full HD. We're just going to change it to HD, and the default for this is 1280 by 720. We need to change this to 1000 by 1000. Click create, and that should be correct for task 10. Moving on to task 11, we're going to create a camera and zoom in so that only the whale is visible in the camera view. So we're going to add a camera to the layer scene by clicking the camera icon in the top left of the timeline, which is right here. Now we're going to use the camera control slider to zoom in and use the hand tool to adjust the framing. So we'll zoom in like this, and then I can use the tool here to adjust it to where we only see the whale. And let me kind of back up here so I can see my stage a little bit better. So I'll zoom in all the way, and then I'll click and drag to put the whale in the camera view right there. I think looks good. So step 3 of the help says to make sure that only the whale is visible within the camera view. So I might need to zoom in a little bit more because we have this little outer water. I'm going to zoom in just a bit more to start with just the whale. And that should be correct. Moving on to task 12, we're going to select the correct term for the span of frames image. So a span of frames with a blue background indicates that it is a motion tween. A black dot at the beginning keyframe with a black dot with a black arrow and blue background indicates that it is a classic tween. A dashed line indicates that the classic tween is broken or incomplete. Like a final keyframe could be missing, so this is broken. A small a indicates that the frame is assigned to frame action with the actions panel. So we'll click action here. And then a span of frames with a green background indicates an inverse kinematics pose layer. So inverse would be the correct option for this. Moving on to task 13, we're going to convert the image to a graphic symbol, rename it boop1, then add a second boop1 symbol into layer 2 frame 1. So to do this, we're going to use the selection tool to select the image of the boop, click modify, convert to symbol. We're going to rename the symbol boot1. Click OK. And now if your library panel is not open, go ahead and open it. And we're going to select layer 2 on the timeline and drag the boot1 symbol from the library panel into the stage. And now we've successfully converted the image to a graphic symbol. We've renamed it boot1, and we added this boot1 symbol into layer 2, frame 1. That should be correct for task 13. Now we're going to change the corner radius of the rectangle to 90 to create rounded corners. We'll use the selection tool to select the rectangle, and we're going to navigate to the Object tab in the Properties panel right here. We're going to open the Rectangle Options dropdown and make sure that you have the rectangle corner radius selected. So if we look down here, here's the rectangle options, and right here we have rectangle corner radius already selected. All you have to do is type 90, and you'll notice that those corners become rounded. We are at the halfway point on task 15. We're going to publish the animation as an HTML5 file, name the HTML5 file final banner, and save it to the GMetrix templates folder. So to do this, you're going to click File, go to Publish Settings. If necessary, you may need to select JavaScript HTML checkbox under Publish and ensure all other formats checkboxes are cleared. So under HTML5, you need to inspect this area. And it says to just make sure that JavaScript HTML checkbox is selected and all other formats here are cleared. And now we can name the file banner. So I'm presuming we'll go ahead and click Publish. Well, it says we need to name it, and I do not see a spot for us to name it. Oh, here's where I messed up. We need to name it here. So here is where you can name it Final Banner. And now we also need to select the spot it's going to be published by clicking this little folder. And this is a little tricky to get to, but you're going to need to click on the hard drive of your computer, click on Mac HD, and then follow this path. It's going to be Library, then Application Support, then Adobe, then CEP, then Extensions, and then GMetrix Templates. And you can save it inside of the Animate CC Lita. Make sure it's called Final Banner. Click Save, and then you can click OK. And that should be correct. If it is not correct, like I did not get it correct right now, it may be because I published earlier by accident. So we'll try that one more time. File, Publish Settings, make sure JavaScript is selected. And then for the name, it's going to be Final Banner. We need to make sure this is inside of the Animate CC. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and save it inside GMetrix Templates. I'm not going to click on this. And then if that doesn't work, then I'll try this because it doesn't tell us to go to the Animate CC Lita folder, just GMetrix Templates. So for that reason, I'll just click here, click Save, and then click Publish. And then click OK. That should be correct. And now we can move on to task 16. Here, we're going to add an simple fast ease to the whale's motion tween. So on your timeline, on frame 1, we need to double click on the motion tween applied to the whale layer to open the ease options. Click Add Ease. Which is right here. Now you're going to open the drop-down menu next to Simple. And you're going to select Fast. And that is an easy way to add a simple fast ease to the whale's motion tween. Next up, we're going to change the cap's dimensions to 115 pixels wide by 58.2 pixels high, then move the cap to where it is on top of the man's head. So we're going to use the selection tool to select the cap. Navigate to the Properties panel, go to Object, Position and Size right here. We're going to change the width to 115 and the height 258.2. And now we can use our selection tool to put the hat on the man's head. Right there. Now he doesn't look like he's bald. All right. Here we need to select and remove the last 3 frames in this animation. So we'll use the selection tool to highlight the last 3 frames. So I'll just click and drag over those last 3 frames. Now we'll right click and select remove frames. Then you can go ahead and click next. And that will be correct. For task 19, we're going to add a motion tween to rotate the windmill blades 3 times clockwise. We will right click on the sails layer. And we're going to select create motion tween. Now in the properties panel, you're going to go to tweening, which is right here. And we're going to select from the rotate drop-down box, you're going to change it to clockwise. And we're going to set the count option, which right now it's just 1 rotation. We will set it to 3 times. So now this windmill should rotate 3 different times, and that should be correct for task 19. Moving on to task 20, we're going to turn on onion skinning, then create a frame-by-frame animation between frames 1 and 5 using the red ball. So we'll click the onion skin button above the timeline, which is going to be somewhere. It's going to be right here. So you can just find this by hovering over the buttons, but it looks like this. You can click the onion skin button. And now we'll navigate to frame 5 and we'll move the ball to a new location, such as over here. And now you see what it looks like on frame 1 and on frame 5. And I guess it wants me to add more positions with the red ball. So I'll go ahead and do that. I'll go ahead and move it over here. And perhaps I'll go to frame 2. And I'll move it over here. Hold on. That should be, what I did should have been correct because it's in a different position on frame 1 and on frame 5. What do I need to do here?
You just have to move the last frame to a different position. That's all.
Yeah, I did. I moved it down.
Did you also move the first frame? Because it's only on like the 5th frame.
I did move the first frame, but not initially. So initially I turned on onion skin and I went to the 5th frame, moved this over here.
Yeah.
That should be it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that should be it. But earlier when I did that, it says incorrect for that one.
Move it even farther.
Further? Okay.
Yeah.
And I need to turn on onion skin so it counts it correct. How much further? Because I mean, I'm moving it all.
Move it like almost pretty much like completely off.
Okay, we'll try off the stage this time.
I had the same problem, and I still don't. Yeah.
All right, folks. Thank you to Mr. Elvin Reyes for his help on this question. Apparently, you need to move it far off the stage, even though the instructions don't indicate that. Thank you so much, sir. For task 21, we're going to export the animation as a QuickTime video. So in order to do this, you're going to go to File, Export Video Media, and we are going to change the format to QuickTime, which mine happens to already be on QuickTime, and the preset should be Default Animate, And for the output, you need to make sure it's in that GMetrix templates folder. So you'll click on the hard drive in case you missed this earlier. Go to Mac HD, Library, Application Support, Adobe, CEP, Extensions, GMetrix Templates. Click Save. And then you can click Export, and this should export the file to that area. And by the way, if anyone from Adobe Animate is watching this, I don't like that a caution symbol shows up to tell me this has been successfully created. I feel like this should be a green check mark or a smiley face. But I get alarmed every time I export and see this caution symbol, like something bad happened. Anyway, that should be correct for task 21. Moving on to task 22, we are going to change the blue triangle's corners so it matches the size and shape of the red triangle. So for this one, we're going to use the sub-selection tool on the blue one triangle layer. And this lets us drag those corners. And we're going to drag, it's called the vertices, to manipulate them so they match the red ones. And that should be correct. All right. Task 23, we're going to click on the icon that indicates the layer is a mask. And so you have all these different multiple choice options, A, B, C, D, E. It should be this one. This indicates that you have a mask applied, little camera. For this one, we're going to change the stage color from black to white. So in the properties panel, we're going to click on the black colored swatch next to stage. And we'll change this from 000. Let me close that out. We'll change this from 000 to FFFFF, which is white. And that should be correct for task 24. Here, we're going to drag each Creative Commons license to its corresponding description. So the little icon of the man is attribution. You may use the work only if you give the author credit, which is down here. Share alike is the arrow going in a circle, which is you may distribute derivative works only under a license identical to the license that governs the original work. So that would be right here. It has to have the same license. The prohibit symbol through the money sign is a non-commercial license. It says you can't make money off of this work. And then no derivative works says that you may only use exact copies of the work. So it can be used, but it cannot be altered. If you have a picture of a dog with a red hat, you can't change it to a blue hat. It has to stay the same. For this one, we're going to drag each frame from the animation to the correct order, starting with the first frame and ending with the last. So frame 1 will be the plant barely growing. It gets a little bigger, then it gets giant, then it has lots of things on it. So frame 1, frame 2, frame 3, and frame 4. That will be correct for task 26. Moving on to task 27, we're going to match each animation principle with the correct definition. So squash and stretch gives flexibility to objects by emphasizing speed, momentum, weight, and mass. Staging is constantly changing composition of a scene and its elements. It's the constantly changing of that. It'll be up here. Timing is the time spent to give emphasis to a given action. And then appeal is creating a character that is interesting and likable to the audience. Now we will match each design principle with the correct definition. Scale is using the relative size of the elements against each other to attract attention to a focal point. And that will be right here. Repetition is creating visual consistency. By repeating an element such as colors, styles, or shapes. Harmony is pulling the composition of an image together by using repetition or rhythm. So that'll be this first one, pulling the composition of an image together. Contrast is creating difference between elements on a page. This can be achieved with color or by varying sizes, fonts, and font styles. Hierarchy contains elements that lead the reader through each element in order of its significance. And then the last one, proximity, is the spatial grouping of elements that look similar to one another. And that should be correct for this vocab page. Got 2 left. We're doing another matching question. Here we're going to talk about how we are meeting with the client to discuss potential goals for creating an animation. We need to match each project content to the client's goals and needs. So if they were doing a music video, it's something that integrates a song and film animation for promotional purposes. That's going to be here. A public service announcement, information that encourages drivers to watch out for pedestrians. That would be a PSA or public service announcement. Video game cutscene advances the storyline between interactive sections. Product advertisement would be an example, would be inducing potential customers to purchase a product. Product advertisement. That leads us to our last question in exam 2, which is matching each image to the correct animation principle. So solid drawing is going to be a picture, believe it or not, of the drawing. Anticipation is the picture of the baseball player. We're anticipating him throwing that. Secondary action is going to be this picture right here. And then squash and stretch is a picture of the cartoon. You often see that in cartoons, squash and stretch. And that will be the conclusion of test 2. That should be a 100. And so I hope you all enjoyed this guide of Adobe Animate. And if you have any questions, feel free to leave it in the comments below. But we can check out here for the second Animate test. That is a perfect score. Be sure to leave a like on this video, and I typically post movie reviews. If you'd like to check that out or see unboxing videos of home entertainment, you are most certainly welcome to consider subscribing. You can also check out the website, EscamotV.net. Thank you all so much for checking this out. Until next time, this is Jason Escamilla from EscamotV.net.